All right. Well, I love to start on time, so I want to welcome you to this strategy session to really help you make 2021 your best year ever. Um, I am Dr. Vicki Rackner, your host, and as you know, for the past decade, I've helped financial advisors successfully accelerate their business growth by acquiring more doctor clients. So what I'm going to bring to you today are some of my best ideas about how some advisors have had their best year ever, sort of what's working, what worked in the past, and what needs to be tweaked. And to start this off, I just want to tell you a little story that really touched my heart. Not too long after the COVID pandemic struck, I just saw this little video about this guy, Zach Sobiak. Zach was a teenager. He was about 12 years old when he was diagnosed with an osteosarcoma, a very aggressive tumor in the bone. He had been treated for a couple of years, multiple surgical interventions, chemotherapy, and it looked like he was in remission for a while, but then it recurred. And it was pretty clear that it was the end. There really wasn't a whole lot that the doctors would do. And the doctors estimated that he had, 6 to 12 months to live. And this video showed Zach really making the decision to live. So after he was given 6 months, he decided he had work to do. He was going to say goodbye, and he was going to do it in the language that he knew best, which was music. So he wrote this song, Clouds, among other songs. This video was taped while he was still alive. It was from a filmmaker who wanted to document people's last days. And one of the things that Zach said was, you don't have to know that you're dying to begin living. And this really touched my heart. I know as a physician that none of us is promised any length of time. I saw that movie in the early part of the COVID pandemic, and I asked myself, what if this was the last year of my life? I wanted to make sure that I was doing the things to leave my legacy. And these are some ideas I'd like to share with you. Now, this is a business session, right? We're not going to hold hands and sing Kumbaya. But I think having this perspective that we are all here for a purpose. And as you look to 2021, what if it were your last year? How would you like to make your impact? Unfortunately, we all know people who have not made it this year. So this might be more than just a thought experiment. And my guess is that if this were your last year, you wouldn't want to do what you're doing now just a little better. And if you keep on doing the things that you've done a little better, a little harder, probably you're going to get the chance to have a little better results. But I'd like to talk about the kind of quantum leap that I've seen for myself in 2020 and for many of my clients. And the thing is that the things that have helped you get to your current level of success may or may not be the things that'll help you take that quantum leap. So in this tutorial, what I'd really like to share is a process to help you find your own answers to these 3 questions. Number 1, what do you really, really want? Number 2, why do you want it? And number 3, how do you get it? So it's really a path to take you from where you are now to where it is that you'd like to get to. And we've got a month to sort of formally formulate what 2020 will look like, what we will bring to 2020. Okay, I always think the best way to get to someplace you want to go is to start with where you are now. So what I personally do as an exercise on a regular basis is to sit down and take a look at my wins. So what has helped you achieve your level of success in 2020? How did you get here? And maybe what got in your way, because that is going to be important information that's going to inform your choices as you move forward. You can also ask, what are your numbers? We're here to talk about a business breakthrough. How well do you understand the numbers in your business? Do you know the lifetime value of your client? Do you know the cost of client acquisition? Do you know what kind of conversion rates that you are getting? And then, how did you get here? What are your gifts? It always amazes me that people have sort of limited insight about what their gifts and what their superpowers are. I know that there was a time when I had a really good friend, Susie. We were both the single parents of young children who were the same age. And I used to cook Sunday night dinner every week. Now, Susie would take the kids. She would take them out and do something fun. Maybe they would create a play or they would go out ice skating or bike riding, which would leave me the peace and quiet to do the cooking. And then we would get together and have dinner, and maybe the kids would perform. And she always said to me, Vicki, this seems so unfair. I mean, you're always doing the cooking. It just doesn't feel like an equal relationship. And I said, Susie, you don't quite get it. I mean, we are actually like the perfect combination. I love to cook. You love to be with the kids. And when you're with the kids, it's making it easier for me to do what I love. So how well do you know what your gifts are? What are your superpowers? One of my superpowers is I see possibilities. And that can be both a superpower and a curse. And if you tap into your superpower, you're probably going to find that that is the same thing. So to identify them, some exercises you might want to go to are go to people you know and say, hey, if I were on the cover of a magazine, what would that magazine be? And what would the article be about? Or if you could only call me, and I was the only person you could call, under which circumstances would I be sort of your lifeline? Because having clarity about your value, like what other people appreciate about you, can really transform the results that you want. Okay, step number 2 is figure out where it is that you want to get to, right? So as you look at your business, what would you like more of in 2021? Would you like more time? Would you like more money? Would you like more meaning? And if you can get complete clarity about what it is that you want, chances are much greater that you will actually do this. And I recommend that you think in terms of setting goals that are measurable so that you can tell, am I moving closer there? So if you want more time, what does that mean? Does it mean that you only want to work 4 days a week instead of 6 or 7? Does it mean that, once we're able to travel again, you'd like to take 4 weeks of vacation? I mean, get very specific and granular. What are your financial goals? Very, very specific about that. Maybe you are guided by what you don't want. Sometimes that's an even easier way of figuring out what you do want. Maybe you want less overwhelm. I mean, it is pretty overwhelming. Maybe you want life to be simpler. Look, I don't want to go onto, 5 social media platforms and engage people on 5. Like, I just want one lead generation campaign that really works. I want one nurture funnel. I just want this to be simple. I remember speaking with my own coach. I had sort of laid out my business back end, and he said, "You are working way too hard. You've got way too many products and services. I want you to choose the top 3, and then let's kind of get rid of the rest." Maybe what you don't want is rejection. I mean, this job is hard. Going out to people who don't already know your value and running the risk of rejection can be wearing. It can be difficult. So maybe you want to sort of figure out how and why that's the case. I think, though, that as we look to 2021, I think really the most important question is, why are you doing this? We all know that this is not an easy job, right? Putting yourself out there and letting people know how you can add value to their life is challenging. There can be down days. There can be days that you don't really feel like doing the things that you want to feel. And this burning question, why are you doing this, really can help keep you on track. So I remember one day I got a call from a financial advisor who had been very, very successful. And, I was listening to her successes and I said, I'm a little confused here. You're doing so well. Why is it that you're reaching out and thinking about enrolling in this course? And she said, well, I'll tell you. I've had this dream of taking my family to the Dolomites for Christmas. And I know that if I can just do one little thing better, I'm going to be able to afford that. Well, sure enough, I got a message from her from the Dolomites, and she and her family were having a lovely time. But it's my guess that her vision of the Dolomites really kept her going and really kept her focused. Now, I've got 2 decades of experience as an entrepreneur. I get it. I get that things can go really tough. I will also disclose to you that last year I personally had my best year ever. I tripled my business last year. Part of it was that I was just responding to the needs of my community. I tried to keep up with all of the changes that COVID brought. And in just really focusing on my clients, I was able to get to what I really wanted. And I'll tell you what my driving why is. I wanted to show my son that entrepreneurship is worth it. I mean, he saw the early years of struggle. I mean, my little elementary school son would tell me, Mom, you should just get a job. But I knew that this was what I wanted to do. And it is such a delight to be able to show him that this is a viable path. That's my why. What's yours? All right, so if we use the metaphor of, going on a trip, I mean, won't it be nice when we'll be able to get our suitcases out and go on a trip again? What do you need to prepare for this trip, what to take with you, and what to leave behind? And I'd like to invite you to think about 3 things. One is how you manage your thoughts. The second is how you manage your feelings. And the third is how you manage your actions. So let's take them one at a time. So managing your actions is actually probably the easiest thing to do. You know that business growth in the COVID world is very, very different than it was a year ago today. So there are some pretty important changes. One is that a lot of us have this idea that we need to be need to need with a prospect in order to build a relationship. Now we're doing virtual relationship building. A year ago when I did my sort of State of the Union, what's working, and it's something I do on an annual basis, I was saying, well, listen, this is the year you should probably think about digital marketing, having a digital sales funnel. So you're regularly sending out something digitally. and building relationships. I will say now that I think this is a must-have. And I get that this can feel a little overwhelming, but there really are ways to simplify it. And I think that, trying to grow your business without a digital sales funnel, a series of helpful information that you send out, is very difficult. Now, I recognize that some of you are going to be dealing with the challenges of broker dealers, and this could be very, very hard for you. But hopefully you'll find a way of making it happen. The third thing that I coach a lot of my clients about is about mastering what I call the language of the sale. So how do you talk to inspire people to take action? And just knowing the right things to say. And let me just give you a little example. Somebody asked me, well, why would they want to deal with me? I'm just like a one-person shop. I don't have a big reputation. I don't have, national advertising behind me. And I suggested, well, when somebody tells you that, say, that's exactly why you want to work with me. You are going to get the individualized, customized care that I, as a solopreneur, can give to people like you. So knowing how to effectively manage objections, knowing how to talk in a way that's client-centered and that will really inspire them to take action is a skill that I've invested in. And I know what kind of difference that will be. Now, I know that a lot of you are here because this is the kickoff for the webinar bootcamp. And in that bootcamp, we are going to be talking about specific language that will help you get to that next step. All right. I think that in the time of the COVID pandemic, there are other softer skills that are going to support your success. I think being the person who holds on to optimism is key. Learning how to be resilient, how to bounce back. This is getting really old. This is getting tiring. I think a lot of us are just waiting to get back to our life. But our clients are hoping that we will be the strong, optimistic person who will remind them of a more optimistic future. And that really is a leadership position. Stephen Covey defines a leadership as the ability to hold the vision of what's possible for somebody and communicate it so clearly that the person comes to see it in themselves. I don't know if you think of yourself as a leader, but I will strongly argue that you really do provide leadership. You will paint the picture of a more optimistic future, even when people cannot see that themselves. Okay, maybe there are things that you need to stop doing. Maybe you have some energy vampires in your life. You get on a Zoom call with them and you just feel the energy sucked out of you. Or maybe you've got some Debbie Downers in your life who are always focused on what the terrible things in your life are. Well, you need your energy. You're here for some pretty big things, right? And I would invite you to consider removing the weeds from your life. Maybe it's that task that's just bugging you. Like maybe every time you walk into the garage, all of the clutter just drives you nuts. Maybe you just really don't like an activity that just sucks up all of your time. Well, I'm a big gardener. One of the important things I do is I do weeding and I take things away from my garden, right? It's subtraction gardening and then nurturing the soil. A lot of times this is the key thing that will really help your garden bloom and blossom. All right, what about the complexity in your life? My guess is that you are looking for a way to simplify. And I will tell you what I am doing in my own business. So I've got a lot of lead generation activities. I am simplifying it to one source of leads. And for me and my business, I have created a quiz. People love quizzes. So I'm actually, for really the first time in my career, I am using paid Facebook advertising to drive people to a quiz. I give them their quiz results and then invite them to a webinar. So that's my one nurture funnel. And then I have a commitment to delivering ongoing value. So if you were to really simplify, what would your simplified sales funnels look like? What do you want to invest in? It's really going to help you get the business results you want, which is getting in front of more good fit leads and nurturing those relationships online so that you attract those best fit clients who are going to help you build your business. And as you think about things, you might want to ask yourself, what is the one single thing that can have the greatest impact on your business growth? I don't know what it is for you, but you are welcome to consider that for yourself. And I would think pretty broadly. All right, one of the things that I sort of observe people doing is sort of overlooking their resources, right? So you've got a book of business. You know the value of your book of business, but there might be other relationships that you have not recognized. So if you've been in the community for any length of time, you know that I talk about these three buckets of leads. There's family, friends, and fans, people who already know, like, and trust you. They may not know that you're committed to helping doctors. There are power partners, you probably call them centers of influence. And these are the people who have lists of doctors and a trusting relationship. Then there's the doctor information seekers. Like this is the cold traffic. I will tell you that probably the biggest mistake that I see people make is overlooking the low-hanging fruit, the family, friends, and fans. So I actually just interviewed last night a dating coach. I had seen that she wrote a book about how to date online, right? And I thought, well, gee, building business relationships with your prospects is kind of like dating. What could she teach us about, optimizing your online presence and building relationships online? She said something very, very interesting. She said that when she's working with her clients who are looking to get married, she has an exercise of making a list of everyone you know, because you might already know your soulmate, but you just never thought of them in that way before. And she said, my clients will resist this activity, but get this, 1 out of 3 of the people she coaches will marry somebody that they already knew. I'm here to tell you that my decade of experience shows that you are most likely to get your next client from somebody who already knows, likes, and trusts you. So it's the holiday season. You might be sending out holiday cards. I would recommend that you start making some lists. So who already knows, likes, and trusts you? Even if it's somebody that you went to high school with, that person might be a doctor. That person might be working for a medical device company and who might have lists of doctors. And, I invite you to just get caught up, because there are soft ways that you can reach out to these people and let them know that you're helping doctors. For example, if you send out a Christmas letter, you can say something like, I am just delighted to see where I'm going professionally right now Today, I am helping doctors take control of their financial destiny. I think the doctors who are working so hard and putting their own lives at risk to help COVID patients should not have to worry about their finances. So I've got some resources. If you know any doctors who would be interested in this resource, please feel welcome to share this with me. So this list should be about 150 people. And I hope that you will trust me when I tell you that this is an important list. Then who are the power partners in your life? And can you expand those power partners? So if you're a financial services professional, those power partners might include CPAs who work with doctors. It might be estate planners. It might be somebody who does outsourced medical billing. It might be somebody who does business lending to doctors. Think broadly and widely. If you know somebody who's a real connector, like maybe somebody who does your hair or your nails, I've had clients acquire doctor clients through these kinds of people, through the dog walker, through your car mechanic. So always be thinking in terms of how this person can help you get in front of doctors in a win-win way. Because remember, doctors are in financial pain right now. So this is not about you. This is about the doctors who need your help. No doctor should be suffering in silence, worrying alone about their money, when you have so many great resources that can really turn things around for doctors. How often are you in touch with your mentors? Do your mentors know what you're doing? Have your mentors offered any ideas about how you can move forward? And then especially if you're bringing financial services to physicians, there are some key physician opinion leaders. When the pharmaceutical industry wants to launch a new drug, the very first thing that they do is they find the key opinion leaders. You can too. You can ask them, what kinds of issues are going on in your community right now? How might I be of service? And let's be real, this is a challenging time for doctors. If you've been on my list for any amount of time, you might have been invited to that listen party from the American College of Surgeons webinar, Financial Survival Strategies for the COVID World. So if you can connect with these influencers, ask what's really needed, and provide that, you've got a great way of connecting. So make those lists. Okay, so we're talking about managing your actions. Next on the list is how do you manage your feelings? And as I observe financial advisors, as I observe myself, what I find is that these feelings can be a real stumbling block. So I try to not get too excited about the wins, and I try to not get too disappointed about the disappointments. I try to keep an even keel, because the feelings that we have, whatever result we've just gotten in that moment, it's like a cloud. It's going to pass. If you just wait, it's going to go away and something else will come. But if you stand firm in this vision of what you really want, if you've got clarity about why it's important, it can help with emotional regulation. It can help you observe your feeling state without being sort of hooked into it. So here are some things that I tell myself to help with emotional regulation. Okay, one is I just think of the Godfathers. It's not personal, it's just business. Now, this is hard, right? Because I sort of feel like I'm putting myself out there, I'm offering my ideas. And when somebody rejects my ideas, it feels kind of personal. But I remind myself, remember when you were in a restaurant and a waitress comes around with 2 coffee crafts, coffee. Some people will say yes to refills. Some people will say no to refills for whatever reason. I'm sure that the waitress doesn't go home at night and sob into her pillow because somebody said no to coffee. Some people are going to want it, some people are not, and it has nothing to do with her. It's just about their need to get coffee. So some people are going to say yes, some people are going to say no. You just want to be available for those people who want the refill. And then I remind myself, look, you don't win all the time. If you look at some of the best hunters, lions are successful in 25% of their hunts. Wolves, 14%. African dogs are probably the best. They're successful about 85% of the time. But, they don't decide, well, gee, I'm going to be unsuccessful 3 out of 4 times, so I may as well just lie down and stay home. No, they kind of go out and do things. And the thing that best helps me manage my emotions are just to focus on measurements. So whenever I launch a campaign, I am constantly measuring to see what my real results are. So I will have an objective for moving forward, right? I will know how I measure whether or not it's successful. And then I will always tweak, because sometimes, things that are not successful at the very beginning often turn out to be successful. For this past year, I have delivered a weekly webinar almost every single week. And I will tell you that the webinar that I delivered today is much, much different than the webinar I delivered in March. Because every time I try to challenge myself to get a little better. So I also try not to deal with hunches, right? I try not to go with my gut feel about it, because I know that I'm going to focus on things that are negative. I'm not going to see the bigger picture. So those are some tools that'll help me. And, hopefully they will help you too. I think the hardest thing to measure and manage are your thoughts. They are just so insidious. Now we're learning more about how the brain works, right? Kahneman talks about the fast path and the slow path in the brain. So we'd all like to think that our days are managed by our thinking brain, our cerebral cortex. But neuroscience is helping us understand that actually most of our decisions are made with our feeling brain. And so, the thoughts that we have, sort of these quick impulses, are things that happen kind of below the surface. It's kind of like an iceberg. And the real danger is underneath the water. It's in these fast paths, these things that actually happen sort of below the radar. I mean, if you're driving, you know how to drive to the grocery store. You don't have to think about, like, where do I make that left turn? You just know it's because this fast path has taken it over. And my observation is oftentimes these fast paths can really get in the way, and they happen under the surface. So it's kind of hard to challenge them. So let me talk about some common roadblocks that I find myself experiencing and seeing others experiencing. Okay, one is my negativity bias. Like, I can deliver a presentation, I can get 100 people saying, this is the best presentation I've ever heard. And one person can say something snitty. And what do I focus on? I focus on that one thing. Like, why did that person say that thing? What should I do differently? And that probably doesn't serve anyone. But what I try to do is sort of have somebody, like, outside of myself. Like, imagine I'm in the corner of the room observing myself, like observing myself talk, so that I have the ability to sort of challenge what it is I'm thinking. Like, is that really what you should be paying attention to? If you're trying to measure your impact, maybe paying attention to that one not nice person is not the best idea. And once you start to put yourself out there on social media, these people can be attracted. It is so easy to sort of feel deflated, get the air out of your balloon by somebody who is just nasty. And you can ask yourself, are they out there creating content? Are they out there trying to make the world a better place? And in most cases, these nasty people are not. All right, another thing I personally get caught up with is perfectionism. Like a decade ago, I knew I wanted to create videos, but like, what about my hair? What about my makeup? What if I forget something? And I remember my mentor just said to me, look, your first videos are going to suck. Your next ones are going to be better, but you're never going to have the chance to improve until you do those first ones. So sure enough, I just kept on doing it. I mean, there was a time when I had to go to YouTube and start taking down like the really embarrassing first videos. I just went through and took down a whole bunch of my podcasts because now I've got more clarity about what it is that I want, but I wouldn't have had that clarity unless I just started. So, something I tell myself is it's okay to suck. Just get out there and start doing it. You will get better. You can take things down. But I'll tell you, if you don't start, it's going to be kind of hard to get to where you want to go. Another thing I will tell myself if I am hypercritical about myself and telling stories about myself is I just ask myself, well, you have this belief, but what evidence do you have that that's true? What evidence do you have that nobody is going to want to hear this message or nobody will come to an event like this? And again, I just try to take the emotions out and just take a look at the facts. Just take a look at the real data because there are ideas that are wrong. And you probably already know this, but your brain lies to you all the time. It's part of the mechanism that will keep you from taking risks. And part of the heart of entrepreneurship is risk taking. Another thing that one of my mentors once said to me, actually, this is now 19 years ago, and I remember it like it was yesterday, is the first sale is to yourself. So you must know about your value before you can expect anyone else to buy this. So do you really understand how you help people? Or can you think about stories of the kinds of transformations that you have facilitated? And bringing that belief, yes, I really do have value, makes it a lot easier to go out and see how you can serve others. Another thing that this same mentor told me 19 years ago was think of the fifth sale first. So part of the benefit of working with doctors is doctors talk to each other, right? They share resources. And so you don't want to just focus on the doctor who may or may not decide to become your client. I mean, even if they don't become your client, they might have a buddy with whom you're a perfect fit. So doctors have colleagues, they have privileges at hospitals, they belong to associations, they have all sorts of relationships outside of it. So as you think about a single doctor client, know that they are connected in these other ways. And so from the very beginning, you want to go into the relationship and deliver enough value so that they say, hey, I get what you are doing. I understand. And then you can ask them, well, how could I help more people get this value? And if you do this in the right way, and you're going to get some language to actually do it, then each new doctor prospect, each new doctor client can kind of like be like a pebble that you throw into a pond, sending out ripples. And you want to ride all of those waves. Another thing I think about on a regular basis is a bumper sticker I saw ages ago. Lord, help me be the person my dog thinks I am. So am I bringing my best self to each day? Am I bringing my A game? And sometimes just looking at this will kind of remind me of it and make me laugh. And by the way, what I do is, like, if there's something I really want to remember, I will often write it on a little Post-it note and then put it in my wallet, put it someplace where I'm going to see it on a regular basis. And then the thing that is in my purse is this statement. It's always okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's the end. I mean, we are here to make the world a better place. If you're not doing this, if you are not making an impact, if you are not reaching the people that you are designed to serve, they are not okay. So this is really a time to step up your game so that it will be your own contribution to the healing from the COVID pandemic. And remember, we've got two pandemics. We've got a virus, but we've got all of the financial fallout. So your prospects are the doctors in the trenches risking their lives to help patients, but they need help. They need financial healing, and that's your job. So I have a way of optimizing health. It's be who you are, know what you know, do what you need to do. So hopefully you will have more clarity about the value that you deliver, what some of your gifts are, and like what you need to do to stay on track every day. Because you know what? Usually the progress is not from some big campaign. It's what you are doing on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis that all add up, that all create marketing gravity to help you get to where you want to go. And by doing these things, you can facilitate a real transformation. All right, well, what are some of the mistakes that I see that keep people from getting to where they want to be, including myself? One is delivering an unappealing message. So I well remember the day I sort of screwed up my courage and invested a lot of money in a mentor. I mean, a lot. And so I went to this 5-day live course, came back and was ready to dig in. I just really threw myself into creating a website. And I was so proud. I sent it to my coach for comments and he said, well, I was expecting him to say, "Atta girl, Vicki, great job." And instead I got, "Vicki, this is awful. This is all about you. Nobody cares about you. What they care about is what you do for them." So how well do you understand what it is that your clients really, really, really want? Because you want to join their conversation. You don't want them to join your conversation. I've got one client who said, "Look, this is the conversation that I want to have." I said, "Well, that's very interesting, but this isn't the conversation your prospects want to have. And if you really want to have a chance to have this conversation, how about if we start where they're already at?" So, if a medic goes out to the field, they heard that there was some bike accident, that somebody had fallen down the hill and there they were in the ravine. The medics wouldn't call out, "Hey, come on up here and I will help you." No, they go down to where the person that they are going to serve. So find out what it is that your prospects and clients really want to talk about. I had probably the ultimate compliment just last week. I was talking to a prospect and he said, "I listened to your stuff and it's like you were in my head, like you knew exactly where I was." And it was sort of like, thank you. Thank you. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens by really being curious and paying attention. And once you've got a sense about where they're at, now you're in a position to deliver a message that will be received. All right, next mistake is the failure to fit in. So doctors want to know, Are you one of us? Like, do you get me? Do you help other doctors? Are you, like, are you somebody who can really help me? And so it's very, very important to really understand the culture of medicine and do things that show I get it. I know how to fit in. The classic example I'm always giving is in the world of business, we default to the first name. In the world of medicine, we default to the doctor title. So let's say I'm at a meeting, my best friend has just delivered a paper and I've got a question. So I raise my hand, go up to the microphone, and I don't say, hey, Doreen, what about this data? I say, Dr. Parker's, because that's the way things work in the medical market. So if you generate a doctor lead and you go right in and you use the first name, you've probably lost that sale at hello. This is really important. Another mistake is moving too fast. So for doctors, money is the ultimate taboo topic. And asking them to open up their financial kimono too soon will just scare them away. So you want to take it slow. Maybe the material you use in your nurture funnel will help them warm up to you, but you don't ask them, for their tax returns or for their Schwab statements, the first time that you meet them. You need to build trust first. You need to wait until it's the right time to ask doctors about their finances. Another mistake is giving up too soon. So doctors are going to need multiple contacts with you before they take action. It might take them a while. It might take them years, but don't give up on them. I recommend that you keep a list. Keep sending your pearls of wisdom to them until they say, I want to get off the list. People have been on my list for 6 years before they've taken action. Another mistake is to fail to harness the power of leverage. So it is really, really tough to get in front of cold traffic and convert the cold traffic. Family, friends, and fans, however, that's something different. That's really easy. So are you harnessing the power of existing relationships, of relationships with your doctor clients? You always want to be looking at ways of making it easier. Next mistake is the failure to take a look at the heartbeat of an encounter. So I will say that when I first made my transition from being a surgeon to being an entrepreneur, I used to say to myself, I hate selling. I loved what I did, right? But I used to say, I hate selling. And you can imagine what kinds of outcomes that I got by saying, I hate selling. So I decided I was going to have to reinvent selling. And I decided that marketing was just engaging somebody in conversation, and selling was inspiring somebody to take action. And so every encounter should have both, right? You need to have a prospect or a client join you in conversation, but then you always want to inspire them to take action, even if it's just a little baby step. And I'll tell you, once I made sure that I had both of those elements in the encounter, I got much better results. And the thing that I always think about is if you've listened to the heart, it goes lub dub, lub dub. So like I could hear that heartbeat in my head as I prepared for engagements and as I conducted the engagement. Lub dub, lub dub, lub dub. Another mistake I see people make is just putting all of your eggs in one basket. I just can't wait until this thing closes. This is going to be so great. It's going to be so important. And you don't want to be too emotionally invested in any one deal, right? You want to diversify your marketing just like you diversify portfolios. If you are too dependent on any one thing, people can feel the desperation, right? And it makes you less attractive. So, any one deal, take it or leave it, but there's always the next person, there's the next step. Another mistake I see is generating activity rather than results. Now, you might be getting more involved with social media or other activities that can be a real time sink. And I invite you to take a look at what kinds of results are you getting from any activity. And you want to start your day doing those things that have been proven to get you results. And the last mistake is a failure to harness the power of your influencers, right? There are people who can open up the red velvet rope for you. And ideally, you have some doctors on board who can actually help you do this. So again, there's this chance to do this metamorphosis with your practice and do it in a way that works for you. Now, last night, for some crazy reason, I just thought about making a list. Like, I've got these 10 laws of physician engagement. Like, what are the laws of entrepreneurship that I share with Dr. Entrepreneurs? And I just thought I would share them with you. I'm sorry, this is a little, it's not polished. Whenever I do something like prepare a talk or, prepare a new presentation, like it gets really messy. Like, this is my living room. I've just got notes and ideas all over the place and then try to pull it together. So you're the first people who have seen this. Okay, so law number 1. It's not about you, it's about your client. So it's natural for us to think about, what we want, how we want to acquire more doctor clients. And I know that, like, when I first started speaking, I used to be really, really scared about speaking because I thought about my performance. Like, what if I say something that's wrong? What if I forget what I was going to say? And I had all of these ideas about what could go wrong. And then my mentor said, look, you're making it about you. It's not about you. Those people in the audience are there because they want what you have to offer. They want you to succeed. So when I shift my focus from me to them, when I approach people in this spirit of service and really put them under the limelight, not only does it get easier for me, but I find that I get better business results. Okay, next, clients pay money to get from point A to point B. So people will exchange their hard-earned money for a transformation. How much clarity do you have about what their desired outcome is? How much insight do you have about where they are? Because if you can start to have conversations about how you get people to go from point A to point B, and you package this in a way that people say, oh, okay, I got it. Yeah, I want that. Okay, point number 3, understand your client and know what they want and they need. Hopefully, you understand this better than they understand themselves. Today, in the COVID pandemic, there are all sorts of new unmet needs. Every time that you find one of those and you fill it, you have an opportunity to demonstrate that you care, that you get them, that you understand them, and you're really there to improve their condition. Next, explain your value so that your clients get it. Remember, doctors are not wired like financial advisors. They think about money, they think about wealth in a very different way than you do. So I invite you to consider describing wealth as the freedom to do what you want to do when you want to do it. You help doctors take control of their financial destiny. Next, leverage your time by learning from successes and mentors. So you don't have to invent this on your own. If you've decided, yes, I'm on board with digital sales funnel, yes, I do want to do a webinar because I can see how that would replace the leads that I would generate with live seminar events. Great. And congratulations for already making this investment to do this, because a good mentor, a good coach, somebody who's been there and done this will help you avoid the mistakes, and it will really help you get to where you want to go more quickly. Next thing my mentor told me 19 years ago is fail quickly. You've got an idea, go out and test it, and be willing to just fail quickly and move on if that doesn't work. So let me just give you one example. One of my first entrepreneurial ventures was empowering family caregivers. If you're taking care of your aging mom or your husband, and there are huge numbers of caregivers, I thought I could really make a difference. The problem was that I hadn't sort of realized that, first of all, a lot of caregivers have left their job, so money is tight. And second of all, they were so overwhelmed that they often did not go online to find what resources were there. And that was back in 2000. So I invested an awful lot, and I just kept on going and going and going, trying different things. I wish in retrospect that I would have just recognized, this is not a good business model. I don't have people with money who are willing to pay me, and just gone on and did the next thing. Next, invest in skills and tools from somebody who successfully used them. Next, show people you can help them by actually helping them. So the contents in your digital sales funnels can be little pearls of wisdom. It can be like the samples that you get at the grocery store. Just give somebody little taste treats. Next, tidy up your inner world to clear the path to success. So, as I said, as a coach, I can tell you from my experience that quite often the real work is not helping somebody, deliver a better talk. I mean, that definitely helps. It's all of the inner work. It's about that stuff that we talked about that's below the surface. That is the main thing. Then at 2, I made a little list of, okay, what kinds of skills and tools have I invested in, have my clients invested in that would really help? All right, sales and marketing skills. Like, how do you talk so your prospects and clients will listen? How do you do strategic planning? How do you figure out, what keywords, all of this digital stuff? How do you do that right? How do you build a digital empire? How do you do content creation or curation? And I think that really a key to success in today's market is really understanding how it is that you can package your pearls of wisdom so that they're out there, that you can be found. Next, a coach and mentor. I have had a coach for the past 2 decades. My son had a coach when he got interested in powerlifting. It was the coaching that allowed him to break a world record. I know that coaches are going to help me get to where I want to go. So I always make sure that my coach has either done it themselves or they've successfully helped other people get to where they want to go. And I've upgraded my coaches, right? I've had different coaches talk with me about different elements. But I always have a focus for the year about how to get better. And I think I've told you, for this year, my focus is really honing one lead generation system, quizzes, and really honing one nurture path, which are webinars and helping other people simplify that too. Okay, a lot of your doctors, and this is important that you remember, have a dysfunctional relationship with money, and you can help them heal their relationship with money. And I would invite you to take a look at your own relationship with money. Is there something that needs healing? Are you feeling worthy of wealth? Does money really serve you in the way that you want? Next, heal the inner world. So many women have the disease to please, described by Harriet Breaker. They base a lot of their decisions on their ability to make other people happy. And you already know that that's a no-win proposition. You simply can't do that. But if you do suffer from the disease to please, there really are things that you can do in order to heal that. Mastering the fine art of negotiation, helping people get what it is that they want in a gracious way is important. Building a dream team, knowing that you're not in it alone. You might be a solopreneur, but you don't want to launch this kind of service alone. There are other people that are going to help you serve your clients, and you can help each other too. So who is your dream team now? How do you want to build your dream team? And then last is time management. There are only so many hours of the day. How are you going to invest those precious hours? And are you really getting the biggest bang for your time? Are you doing the most important things first, even if they're not necessarily the things that you like doing? So I'm going to get back to Zach Sobiech. By the way, the story of his life is now out on the Disney movie Clouds. I would recommend that you watch it. But I will just come back to this message. You don't have to know you're dying to really jump into living. I hope that this is your best year ever. And I invite you to really sit down and consider the 3 questions that we started with. What do you really, really want in 2021? Why do you want it? And have a picture in your mind of achieving it. And then how do you get it? What is your path?